Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty on our Redline rebuild series. Back on, or still on, our 4-liter Jeep motor, soon to be actually, I have to correct that. We're now a 4.6 liter because the crankshaft, rods, and pistons are in. So we are somewhat buttoned up on a short block. We're gonna wrap up that side of things, putting the oil pump in and getting the oil pan on, and then we'll flip it over and start building it from the top up and get as much done as we possibly can. Perfect. Time's up. All right, if I told you once, I've told you at least 1,000 times. Reference your pictures when you're on your teardown so you know where all the bolts go. Specifically the ones with studs versus a standard head. All right, well, with the bottom of all this buttoned up, we are ready to take and set our cylinder head on. But before we do that, we want to check our valve clearance. It's pretty simple. Mock everything up, take some clay, stick it on the top of your piston, both for the intake and the exhaust valves. 2 lifters in, set your gasket on, put your head on, and put 2 of your push rods in, of course, put 2 rockers on, put a couple bolts in there just to hold it down, and then go through a complete rotation of your engine so both valves go through their stroke, pull everything back apart, and measure your clay thickness. All right, so let me get this head gasket out of the way. This is our exhaust clearance. This is our intake clearance. Now, the general rule of thumb is at least 100 thousandths on everything. And some people like to see higher, obviously on the exhaust, because that tends to grow more. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we got no issues here because we have lots of room. To the intake, we get 600 thousandths. So we got all kinds of room there. But on the exhaust, we're at about 318, 320. And that is also plenty. So we're in really good shape for that. Doesn't surprise me any because, well, for all intents and purposes, most stock applications, they leave a lot of room there because, well, they don't like things to crash either. So at this point, we're good to roll to get everything put everything together here relative to the cylinder head and the valve train. So that's where I'm going to head next. In case you were wondering, our reman cylinder head from rockauto.com came with a cheat sheet for the torque sequence and the torque. Pretty handy. And a nice little holder here on the head. All right, so we have our valve cover on, all of our valve train is done. Got my wonderful dipstick in here. I put the adapter on for the oil filter. And by the way, if you're looking for a little tip here, this has an internal hex, right? So like a big Allen wrench would go in there, but it's a 9/16. And those aren't too terribly common and expensive when you go to buy them, and certainly not in your normal pack. So what we stumbled on are these, they're couplers, threaded couplers. And since they're thin, they go in here real nice and makes for a great adapter. Probably save you a good, I don't know, 30 bucks on a tool. So anyhow, we have our adapter here for our pressure sensor. But before I put that in, I'm actually gonna plumb up a mechanical gauge because I'm going to drive the oil pump before I put the distributor in and get some oil pressure in and see what I have for oil up top that way. So basically pre-lube the engine. All right, so here's my rockauto.com tip of the day. First, these oil pressure sensors tend to go bad. So before you tear down your motor, take and plumb up a mechanical gauge just like this to check your oil pressure. Second one today is I'm gonna use this to drive my oil pump. Now, mind you, I certainly don't want this to fall in there. Now, in my case, this is fairly tight, but tell you what, I'm not taking any chances. So I'm going to wrap this with a little electrical tape, like so. That way it doesn't just come off and then I'm pulling the oil pan to find it. Right on? Now the real question is, which way do I spin this? There it is. Right on. Sweet. Well, with just a drill motor, we got 60 pounds of pressure, so that's nice. And I can see that popped up here pretty fast into this rocker. So we're in good shape. Now I'm gonna pull this all back off and then I'm gonna, how was I gonna put that?
Put it in the right way?
Was it install it? In
the correct way?
Install it.
Not 180 degrees out?
Right. All right, so if you know my history with this, I got about 50-50 chance of getting this right. Now, I had Ben watch me, and I marked the crankshaft to make sure nobody rotated it while I had some lunch, but I have it at top dead center. The intake valve closed, and then I went to top dead center right after that. So this better be in the right spot. Now, the only place I can still make a mistake, I gotta pull the cap off, watch where the rotor's at, and label number 1 correctly, which looks like Jeep already did. We'll see how foolproof it really is, though. Number 1 is right here by my thumb. Somewhere in there. I like that. That's better. Right here's 1. Straight up is 1. Cool. Well, here we have our, well, all of our stuff on the front of the motor, of course. And we just installed our exhaust manifold that Cerakote has done a lovely job coating for us. And likewise, our intake manifold, which is also coated by West Michigan Cerakote. Spencer does a beautiful job and is gonna hold up very well. Now, here's a first for us with our Redline rebuilds. We're installing these things. Yes, I know they're in fuel injector. I've done these before. But at any rate, it's cool and it's new for us. Now, these are also 24-pound injectors, so a slightly better injector than what was stock in there. I think they were 18. And actually, Davin and Jeff did a fantastic job locating them. They're with Rock Auto, and were a great help to find them. They're applicable to another Jeep, I guess. So at any rate, they're the upgrade with an OE part. Boom. Well, isn't she a beaut? It's all done on the engine stand. Everything's assembled that I want on it. For now, I'm going to take the fan back off before I put it in the car, but Ben needs to do some beauty shots of this for you, and for in that end of day time lapse. So that's where we're going to leave this for today. I tell you, the stuff that we got from rockauto.com went together very nice, turned out very good. Of course, our West Michigan Cerakote parts are absolutely beautiful. Delta camshaft, can't forget them. And well, you see we tried a little VP break-in oil, so we'll see how that goes. Next time around, you'll see this going into the Jeep and then on to fire up and running around the yard. So with that, get out in the shop, go get your work done. See ya.